Good evening. Welcome to another Human Performance Live. Tonight we have Anthony from Heroic Industries and his Heroic Nation podcast. I'll let you introduce yourself. What kind of things do you do? What you offer for people? And what do you do for a living?
Well, a lot of things, but yeah, I mean, I'm a full-time cop, and I've been on our department for it's going on 18 years. I've been on a SWAT team for like 13 or 14, I think. I've been on the job a long time. I've done undercover work. I've done SWAT stuff, obviously. So gang unit, detective type deal. So I know the lifestyle. I know like all the stresses that come with that, based on all that time. In addition to that, I ran as like a part-time gig, a CrossFit gym that ended up I think we ended at like 225 members. We had 10,000 square feet. So it was a big establishment. Started in the garage and kind of built up from there, and then sold that in 2021. So that was my part-time job. So I didn't have to work, a bunch of security gigs, but in
60
doing
plus hours a week.
yeah. So running a business is definitely a better deal than that. But anyway, so like I got really into CrossFit. I played college football, so it kind of made sense, like moving from that to like competing in CrossFit and then jujitsu. I did the regional thing in CrossFit. So, I mean, point being, like, I got a lot of certifications, a lot of time coaching different styles of athletes, both first responders and general population. So learned a lot of things as to what works, what training works, what nutrition works, what doesn't work for both of those, the pros of CrossFit, the cons of CrossFit, and then at the end, we actually ventured into some different styles of training that was, more powerlifting based, GPP based, not just CrossFit. So got a lot of experience with that.
So I have a question about CrossFit because I've been to a couple CrossFit gyms, never partaken in it. What in the hell is up with those pull-ups?
Yeah. So that's you're talking about the kipping pull-up. Yeah.
That's not a pull-up at all in any fashion form or why do they do that, and how do people not get hurt doing that?
Well, all right. So let's break it down. Like, what is the movement? It is actually a pull-up. It's a gymnastics movement. A kip is a gymnastics movement. And what that is referring to is like global extension and flexion of the spine. So if you take your kid and you put them into little kids gymnastics, they're going to teach them how to do global extension and flexion of the spine. So like here, this is your spine, right? I don't have enough room to show you with my spine, so stay with me. But so we extension and flexion, and you use that to create momentum to move up and down on different apparatus, right? So you do it on the rings, you do it on the bars. So it is a movement. Now, it's not a strict movement, but it is a movement nonetheless. So the whole idea is getting extension and flexion of the spine and controlling your midline, right? Okay. So what that also allows you to do, right, wrong, or indifferent, right, is to use that as a force production, right, method to get your chin over the bar. So if you don't have the strength to do like a strict pull-up, you can use that momentum and that extension and flexion to produce the force to get your chin over the bar. Okay. So therefore you can do a pull-up if you don't have the strength to do a strict pull-up. Now, the downsides to that are many, especially if you lack flexibility and mobility in your thoracic spine. So if your T-spine's too tight and you try to like press down and you go through that motion, what's going to happen is your spine won't flex because it's too rigid. And then that movement will translate usually up the chain to like an elbow, right? Okay. So that's where you'll get shoulder. So it goes from your T-spine, which should move a little bit. And if it doesn't move, then that movement's going to translate to shoulder or elbow usually, right? Right. So then you're going to develop like, you can get stuff like labral tears or slap tears in your shoulder. You can develop some elbow issues, tendonitis issues. And then you look at like overuse stuff from overuse of intensity. Like I said, I learned a lot of CrossFit that is good and a lot of CrossFit that is bad. And like you can take a kipping pull-up, perfect example, and say like, how can we use this to develop motor control? How can we use this to develop extension and flexion of the spine, global extension and flexion, which you also see in burpees and different gymnastics movements? It's a very important thing to do. but if you overuse intensity, if you overuse that, like that whipping of the spine in order to like get weak people to do things faster, then what's going to happen? They're going to get broken.
Right.
And that's where it's like, should you use kipping pull-ups? Yeah, maybe. You know, I don't use them hardly at all anymore, but I do get on the bar and I warm up with a lot of the same stuff that preps for a kipping pull-up. But yeah, I go back to the original stuff that we kind of started with CrossFit before it got super competitive, is that if you can't do, 5 to 10 strict pull-ups, how many kipping pull-ups should you do? Probably not many. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have the requisite strength in order to do the high intensity stuff.
Right. So you should go back to putting a band on, do your pull-ups, get your strength in your back and your shoulders where it needs to be before you start doing something that's that high of intensity that could hurt you essentially.
Yeah. And then there's all sorts of different stuff that you can break down and pull apart. So you could actually do like a kipping pull-up and then a slow eccentric down. So it takes that and adds time under tension. You work that global extension, but you're also working that slow eccentric, which is building the strength and control. Right.
Okay.
So you can do a jumping negative. You can do all sorts of different things. So there's different ways to, like, there's not just a one, like, well, this is a pull up, this is not a pull up. Like, all right, well, definition wise, like just getting your chin over the bar is kind of a pull up. It's really like, what's your standard? What are you trying to do? And like, I mean, you can break this down as far as you want, but like, all things are tools. What's your goal? And is that tool appropriate?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've always wanted to ask that question. I've never actually had the opportunity to ask somebody because I don't hang out in CrossFit gyms very often. So
now I will say, last thing I'll say about kipping pull-ups, I'm sure people are probably like, I'm tired of hearing about pull-ups already, but that a lot of stuff you see, like if you watch the CrossFit Games, if you watch ESPN and see the CrossFit Games of big time athletes, you'll see a lot of like the butterfly pull-ups and the heavy cycling. And a lot of that stuff is like, it was developed for the sport of CrossFit, which like it, don't like it, whatever. Like, that's a standard. The butterfly pull-up's kind of a dead end movement. There's nothing you can really build off of that, as where a kipping pull-up, you can do kipping pull-up, muscle up, different stuff like that. So it's like endless gymnastics chains you can put on it. But some stuff that the CrossFit Games does, it really doesn't translate to anything but CrossFit. So if you're not into that, like, I guess it really doesn't matter. Like,
it seems like it's a lot of it's built to fatigue before they get to like this larger event to, I don't know. I've watched a few of them. They're athletes. Can't deny that, but man, seems like a whole lot of busted body parts.
Yeah, it definitely is. I can attest to that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even do CrossFit, and I've had 15 surgeries with, slap tears. I've had to have my labrum fixed. Still should have my rotator cuff fixed. Didn't do that. Labrum, bicep tendon, had to have that removed and put it down in my forearm or my humerus. So yeah, all the good stuff that comes with being a dumbass my whole life. So, so what's your experience with testosterone and hormone therapy and longevity with different types of hormones and peptides and?
Yeah, so I got on TRT probably, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe 2 and change, something like that. But prior to that, like I had always kind of tracked my blood work loosely. I've always been kind of like, well, what's my testosterone levels? And, they've always been like, in my early 30s and stuff, like I'd do it once in a while. It was relatively fine. It was nothing, nothing crazy. But yeah, so like, I'm trying to think, it was probably 2016, I think. Yeah, I started working nights. And I was like, just regular night shift stuff, like fatigue, wasn't recovering well, getting like little nagging injuries, tendonitis issues, tendinosis issues, just all the same kind of stuff, right? Overuse, under recovered, tried to like rest more, tried to do all the things I knew how to do, reduce training. And I just got my blood work run. And I think my testosterone, my total was like in the 100s or something. Wow. And I was like, oh, well, here could be the problem. You know what I mean? And from there, it was like, all right, well, how can I best optimize my hormone profile for the next, 3 months. So I went on a series of like every 3 months I would get my blood drawn. I would adjust some markers. I would play little experiments with like, let's change my food. Let's change my sleep. I switched to day shift, all these different things I did for probably the better part of a year, like every 3 to 6 months getting, well, probably 2 years actually. Cause I didn't get on until I think like 19 or 20. I don't know. Maybe that timeline's off. Either way, like I did about 2 years of like panels consistently, and finally got to the point where I got off a night shift, back on day shift, and or a day like shift, and then it went back up to like 400. And working with the doc that I was at the time, he was like, "Man, I think this is about where you're going to be." And he goes, if you're happy with that and you're like not having symptoms, like you're within that, quote unquote reference range of like 370 to 1200 or whatever it is, that massive reference range I always refer to.
It's now 190 in some states.
Yeah. So like, it depends where you're at. I didn't realize at the time, but yeah, the reference range will change based on geographic location.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild, man. But,
money.
Yeah. Yeah, so like he was like, I think this is about where you're at. Like, are you happy with that? And I was like, not really. I kind of still feel run down and like crap. And he was like, all right, well, maybe it's time to start looking at testosterone. So started on that. And then before I went straight on that, he was like, well, so my numbers were interesting. I had really high SHBG. My total was within range, but my free was almost nothing. Right. And it was like, man, the SHBG is tying up all that testosterone, and it's crushing you. So they said, why don't we run 8 weeks of Anavar, and then that should bring your SHBG down. So I did that because I was like, well, let's try that first. That'll be less. The way that it was presented to me, I don't know if this is actually accurate or not, but it was like, hey, this will be less intense, I guess, than testosterone, because you can run it for 8 weeks at a time and then go off of it, right? Because the orals are you can cycle them that way. And
it's invasive too. I mean, it's just a pill. You don't have to prepare yourself for an injection if you're not used to that. So yeah.
So I was like, yeah, sure, let's try that. And that was really effective. It brought the numbers within range that was appropriate. I felt pretty good on it. But I was getting some side effects I didn't like. And then my lipids, my cholesterol levels, I wasn't real happy with where those were at, because I've got high ApoB, and then my cholesterol is like, I have genetic markers for that. So having that be really hard on my liver, I didn't want to consistently, like, even running 2 cycles a year of Anavar was something I didn't want to mess with.
Right.
Plus my hair was falling out, and I was like, dude, like, I can't be having that. So, but yeah, so I decided to go into testosterone, and I started at 200 milligrams a week, injecting 3 times a week. And then that was a little hot, actually. So I took it down to 150. So that's where I'm at now. I've been at that level for probably about a year and a half, and it's pretty effective.
I've been at 200 a week for about probably 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's just what my body's happy. I feel good. I probably could back it down a little bit, but I've been here for so long. It just makes no sense to go backwards now. So when you found out that your testosterone levels were low, and see, that's one thing you mentioned something about your free was almost nothing and your testosterone was okay, but it was still almost nothing for a guy, especially a guy your size. I mean, you're a college football player, you work out a lot, and when you have all of that going on and you're still trying to build muscle, well, you're not going to, because you don't have the support in your body that you need. So what the doctors say about your free testosterone, I try to explain to guys that your overall testosterone, the number is, it's the number. The reason why they use that number instead of your free testosterone is because it's a more available number for them to reference. but your free testosterone is really what matters. Because if your body's not producing enough testosterone, it doesn't matter if it's storing it good. It needs to be making more. And a lot of guys, well, me included, I didn't know any of that until I got on it and started researching more about it and trying to figure out why this doesn't work and why that doesn't work. Because you have, after we hit, I think it's 35 or 40, you lose 1 to 3% testosterone year over year after that. Which is kind of weird because when I was younger, those old timers, they're 60, 70 years old and they're running around punching holes in walls and, punching through trees. And it's like their numbers had to have been, in the low 8s for sure, because they were manly men. And I think that's what now that I'm older, I think that's what people were talking about back then. That's a manly man, because at his age, he's still out there, picking stuff up and doing this and doing that. So what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, let's kind of like work backwards from that one. I think that research, I say research, I have no research to quote right now, but like the numbers for testosterone with men are dropping, right?
Yeah.
That
30 to 50%.
Yeah, so that's true. Whether that is from environmental issues, pseudoestrogens that we're exposed to with plastics and all that kind of stuff, that could be chronic stress, that could be, sedentary lifestyle, that could be. So all these factors could be are probably like multifactorial as to why testosterone levels are dropping with men, right?
Right.
So were those old timers like at 800? Hell, I don't know, maybe 500, but
they didn't check it.
Yeah, they didn't care. Know. Right. It didn't matter. And that's actually like a good point though, is like, why should you get on testosterone? It's for me, right. It's symptomatic. All right. So like, it doesn't matter if I was at 400 or 300 or 150, right. If I wasn't having issues, then don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, you're treating symptoms. So and a lot of times people don't know this, but the leaner you are, the lower your testosterone often is.
Mm-hmm.
So like, your body fat is a big correlation to what your testosterone levels are. So to a point, you know what I mean? Like, if you're under 20, like 10 to 20%, like, you'll probably be fine. But if you start getting down, I would say 15 to 20 maybe for guys, but you start getting below 15 into 10 into single digits, your testosterone is going to tank, man.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have enough body fat to support high numbers of that.
And I think that's why bodybuilders, a lot of them, besides the fact that they need something to support getting that freakishly large, but because they run around, half the year in such a low body fat deficit that it's just not doing what it needs to do, because their system's not designed for that. So,
well, I think with bodybuilding, I don't know a ton about it. I've never been a bodybuilder, but like, they're only that lean for a very short period of time. And if you're talking about like non-tested shows or guys that are clearly using gear, like, they're running testosterone at super physiologic rates. Plus they're using, like DECA or D-bol, or they're stacking different things, or HGH. Right. So like, but they're running it at like a super physiologic dose. And that's where you run into the issue of like, well, I don't want to get on TRT because I don't want to use steroids. Like, listen, it's the same exact thing, right?
Yeah.
We're taking the same shit that bodybuilders take.
Yep.
But we take it on a normal dose to get back into the high end of the reference range, which is going to put us at normal human being status, right?
Yeah.
So it's
when I take in a week, they take, in the first 5 seconds they woke up every day.
Right.
And they do that 5 times a day. Yeah.
So
we're not even close to what they're doing.
No. And that's like, that super physiologic dose is what's going to, cause issues in the future.
So
like, I'm trying to remember what you said, the first part of it. Is that?
I don't know. Shit.
Sorry,
I just got
blanked on it.
I got into the conversation and forgot what we were talking about fully on the. So I was just basically saying, like with bodybuilders, because they're running so lean all the time, and then getting that large. First of all, it's not normal, and that's why they have to have that extra support. I mean, nobody should eat, 20,000 calories a day and have to take $15,000 worth of gear a month just to get and stay that large. But like you said, they only stay at that body fat for X amount of time, unless you're a guy like Ronnie Coleman. He stayed pretty close to that. He'd get to 10% maybe. And well, until his body broke down and he couldn't do it anymore. But so yeah, I don't understand that the want to be that low body fat. First of all, if you get punched and you have that low body fat, it hurts really bad. And you get cold fast.
Yeah, it's not an optimal place to be for anything other than just like display model only. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to do a whole lot of stuff with that being that lean.
Yeah. And does it, so from your experiences being that lean, how does it hinder you in you being a coach?
How does being that lean hinder you in being a coach?
Well, for you being a coach, if you had somebody that came in and was that lean, how would that hinder them in a training? How would you address somebody that was like their main goal to stay lean, but they want to go and do, they want to be a cop. They want to go and be, go in the military. They want to go do something that's super, super active, and they're coming to you that lean, and that's they want to stay that lean.
Yeah. So actually, like I had that conversation today, sort of. It's every time I do consults with dudes, and I'm like, well, what's your goal? Well, I want to gain muscle and lose fat and be able to perform at a super high level for whatever it is I want to do. Right. So, all right, let's break that down. Right. When you set goals for things, you can basically fall into like 3 categories. You can fall into aesthetic goals, which is what we're talking about. Like I want to be like stage lean. I want to have an aesthetic goal for a vacation or for a bodybuilding show or a photo shoot, something like that. Right. I have an aesthetic look that I want. That's one goal. Right. Another camp would be performance goals. So like I want to compete in jiu-jitsu. I want to compete in powerlifting or CrossFit. I want to be able to, perform well at SWAT tryouts or like something like that, where it's a performance metric. You have a barbell, you have a clock, you have a stopwatch, you have performance things that you want to get done, right? That's one. That's another way. And then the third place, and I have not found another category to add to this because most things fall into one of these 3, is health and longevity. I want to live till I'm 100 years old. That's my goal. So outside of like health and longevity, performance, and then aesthetics, like you have to decide which direction you want to go in.
Right.
And you can do this several times throughout the year. This is where like you cycle your training and you periodize things. So you periodize your training based on your goals and your calendar. So you could have a Spartan race that you want to compete at, like a performance goal. And then you could say, I have a vacation like 3 months later, and I want to look lean for that. And then, I also want to keep my health markers and blood markers in line too. It's like, okay, so we have to cycle the aesthetics and performance, because the further you get towards one, like if you get towards like, I want to do a bodybuilding show and I want to be single digits lean. All right, cool. Well, you're not going to be able to deadlift a lot when you're single digits lean. Like you won't be able to. You'll be so depleted, you're not going to be able to lift shit. And so you can't have both. You can't. So you need to decide when you want to have these pieces, or if you just want to live in a middle ground that you can kind of have a little bit of both, but you're never going to be like all one way or the other.
Right. So it's not a one size fits all where you can just be both at the same time and get the benefits of both just because you think you can.
Right. Unless you want to run super physiologic doses of gear. If you want to do that, you could probably get both. I can't help you with that.
Right.
But I mean, you could find somebody that's going to do that, but you're going to burn yourself out. You're only going to do it for a very short period of time. So you just got to
pay a lot of money.
Yeah. There's no solutions, right? There's no solutions. There's only trade-offs. You're always trading this for that. You're trading things you want for other things you want. Like you just got to figure out how you want to do it, when you want to do it, and a good roadmap on how to get there.
So essentially what you're saying is you need to know your end state before you go into the whole situation, because if you don't, then you don't know where to start.
Yeah, you're just wandering through, you're guessing at things, and that's not a good way. I tell you right now, that's a horrible way to address hormones, right?
Yeah.
You have to get good information from good people, or you're just going to be like, I don't know, I guess I'll try this. And then you're going to be up and down and all over the place. It's like chasing a zero, man. It's like you're trying to get on paper and you're like, okay, I'm just going to chase that dot, like chase that hole. You're not addressing the fact that you're a shitty shot, right? So you got to back it down and like look at it for what it is, you know?
Yeah, you got to figure out what it is that what you're doing wrong. Are you pulling the gun? Are you dropping the gun? Are you anticipating the shot?
Yeah.
So what is your training style? What do you like to train people to do? Obviously, they're going to come to you and say, hey, I want to do this. But what's your favorite training style to get guys into shape or gals?
It really depends, right? So like there's not a one size fits all model, but just, I mean, if we're just talking global, you know, big picture view, like we got to be lifting weights. We have to be doing resistance training. If you're not doing that, you're not going to be building the lean muscle that you need for anything, right? For performance, for aesthetics, or for longevity, right? The more we get into longevity studies, geriatric studies, like you need muscle mass to be able to do that. And the number one factor for going into a nursing home early is if you can get up off the ground or not. And the stronger you are,
really,
yes, that's 100% the number one indicator of that. And I think early death is if you fall down and you can't get yourself back up, you're going into a home, like 2 ways around it. Yeah. Like, I mean, think about it though. It's like, man, dad fell down again. He can't get back up. I got to go over and get him. If we don't get him up, he's going to die there, right? He'll lay there forever. He can't get up. So like, just put him in a home. We can't function with him there. So that's the number one indicator is if you can get up off the ground. So if you're stronger and you're in better shape, you have more muscle, you're going to be able to get up off the ground, right? So that's important.
So what you're telling me is all those people in the Life Alert commercials, they went to a home?
Probably.
Kind of depressing, man. It's kind of fucked up and depressing. Oh man. So once you got your once you started talking to your doc and he told you, hey, let's try this, how long was it before you kind of really got everything dialed in for your testosterone and your hormones? And are you just on testosterone? Are you on any other supplements or not supplements, but peptides or anything?
Yeah. So just testosterone is all I have for as far as like hormones. But I do use peptides where I can use them. Like I think peptides are the next front as far as like health and fitness and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that whole industry is really, really interesting. The stuff for healing is really where I've had most of my experience. TB500, BPC 157, ARA 290, stuff like that. That's going to reduce inflammation, you know, aid in healing. A lot of the stuff that like the mechanisms for TB500 and BPC 157 are similar to like PRP injections. They really create the same kind of process of inflammation and healing and recovery.
Okay. What was that? AR 290?
I think it's ARA 290.
That's one I've never heard of. And I'm always on the search of more things to help reduce inflammation in my busted ass body.
Yeah, that one is really, I think the primary focus, I believe, is like nerve regeneration.
Ooh.
So yeah, so it's really good as far as that goes. That's what they're primarily looking at that for. What's cool is like they'll look at that for like nerve healing, but then they'll find that it, I don't know, helps build lean muscle, and it's like all of a sudden people are using it for that or whatever, you know. Like a lot of times they find that oh, there's multiple uses for this thing.
Right. Now, when you get these peptides that are not FDA approved, where are you going to get them? Because I mean, it's not illegal, and that's what people don't. I think a lot of people shy away from peptides because it says not FDA approved for experimental use only. The problem is TB500 and BPC 157 were approved until they found out that, oh wow, it's helping people.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was not approved anymore. This is the worst thing. We didn't do enough studies. So you're going to tell me the FDA approved something that they didn't do enough studies on and then pulled it off the shelf because they didn't do enough studies. That makes no damn sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but then when you start looking into it, you're like, oh, it makes all the sense, right? So you're starting to cut into people's profit margins,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's gone. So yeah, I mean, this stuff is on and off the FDA approved list for many different reasons. Almost all of them are political.
Yep.
Whatever, man. Like I don't have the patience or the bandwidth to get too worked up about it. Now, the best way to get this stuff is through a compounded pharmacy with a prescription. Like that's the best way. That's called white market. There is gray market peptides, which is like you can buy them technically for like your lab rats, right? So you can take them. There's nothing illegal about it. You're not breaking any laws, but it's not FDA approved, and there is a chance that you're not getting the most pure product. You know what I mean?
Right.
There are more allergens. That's probably the biggest risk that the way I understand it is, like there's a chance you could have an anaphylactic reaction, an allergic reaction to the peptide because it's not from a compounded pharmacy. Right. Now, a lot of places, and I don't want to like promote one over the other, like they're third party tested. What is it? Peptide Sciences, Amino Asylum or Asylum Aminos or whatever that is. That's one. There's several. Biotech something or other. So I don't remember, but there's numerous that are third party tested. They're good quality, and there's a lot that are not. So there's websites that pop up, sell peptides. And, I had a friend that bought a bunch of peptides from one site and then it was gone the next day and he lost $500. So, I mean, that kind of shit happens. So it's like, that's the downside of getting from a gray market source is like, you're not 100% sure on things. So it is, I mean, if you're comfortable with it, there are some good reputable sites, but you got to do your homework, and there's always a risk that it's not the best quality. Yeah. So, but it's also not black market where you're buying it from the dude at the YMCA in the back lot. So I mean, you're not doing that either.
So they got a needle hole in it.
Right. It's leaky with stuff. And you're like, I thought this was supposed to be reconstituted, and it's like leaky.
Use my needle.
Yeah, right. Not that's black market. That's not a good plan.
Right. Don't do that at all, because you're asking for hepatitis and all kinds of other shit.
Yeah, right. Bad stuff.
So you mentioned white market. Now, doing what we do, if not all of the compounding pharmacies that we use, they won't touch anything that's not FDA approved.
Right.
Where would you find a compounding pharmacy that would actually write that or get, fill that as a prescription? Because like our doctor, if it's available from a pharmacy that we actually use, he'll 100% write it.
Yeah.
If it's right for you, obviously. Me having so much inflammation and tore up body parts, I would just love to be able to get something prescribed. That way I'm not having to go. And luckily, I have some friends, yourself and a couple other guys that know where to get the stuff that's actually tested and was that USP tested and third party tested and all this stuff, so that it's pure, about as pure as you can get it, besides being at a compounding pharmacy.
So like if it's not FDA approved, you're not going to be able to get it through a compounding pharmacy. Nobody can write a prescription for something that's not FDA approved, the way I understand it. Right. So again, like, I would go on the websites, I would do research. I would say like, all right, what's going to be a good third party tested site that I'm comfortable with? Like I'm not affiliated with any of them, like, listed a few. But yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah. And obviously talk to your friends that have taken them, and and then get a hold of other people that know a little bit more about it and can get you into in the direction that will help. But when people, and that's one thing that kills me, is like people will look at the price. Let's say BPC 157. Oh, 10 ml vials, $150, $120. Yeah, it is. I want to tell you, that's the price of it. And you have to, if you want that particular item and it's a reputable site, you're going to pay more for it, because they have to do the third party testing. They have to do all of these things that encompass selling you a product that's pure and not going to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're looking around and you're like, and price points, the only thing you're shopping on with this stuff, like you probably shouldn't be messing with it then. Like that's not like you should be looking at like reputable sources. What's going to not land you in the hospital. Like that should be like your primary with this.
Yeah. Fentanyl free, please.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I can answer this on my side of it, and then Anthony, you can answer it on your side of it. I'm pretty sure because you've had experience with BPC and TB500. For me, yes. So I have arthritis in my shoulders, my back, my elbows, my knees, my hips. I take BPC 157 TB500 blend with other stuff, but I noticed overnight, it was almost overnight that they stopped hurting. I still ache. I mean, I'm almost 50, so I'm gonna ache. I'm okay with aching, but getting out of bed going, oh, man, this sucks so bad to get up and wait 2 hours for your body to get warmed up and try to move around. Since I got my hormones straightened out, but two, ever since I started taking these hormones these peptides that were really designed to help regenerate, really helped a ton.
Yeah. So as far as like elbow arthritis or arthritis in general, like you're talking about inflammation of a joint. The first thing I always like to do is like rule stuff out, and it kind of slows the process down. But like, all right, what's your sleep been like? What's your training look like? Like, what are we doing that's supporting a pro-inflammatory environment in your joint or your body, right? That we can reduce that and see if that gets better without adding a bunch of crap, that we're taking shots and taking pills and that kind of stuff. Like if we can do that, that to me is like the first step, right?
Yeah.
Like
first line of defense.
Sleep, nutrition, like normal stuff, right? Think like steps 1, 2, 3, and then peptides, TRT, all this other stuff is like 4, 5, 6. And then you got tertiary stuff like 7, 8, 9, 10 down the line. Right. So
Right.
That's what I would establish, like make sure we are looking at like something that we can't fix with sleep, nutrition, hydration. Right. And then if we cannot, if you check those boxes, then we look at it. And personally, like, I would not assume it's just arthritis unless you get some imaging and you're like, yeah, this is arthritis. We're not looking at something different. We're not looking at like a tendon pulling weird or a movement or a mechanic, something like that. Like it's those kipping pull-ups. Like maybe if we just change the kipping pull-ups, we don't have to fuck with this anymore,
Right.
So
or
like,
just doing a regular pull-up. Maybe doing a kip will help you so that you
maybe
can get that momentum
and
pull yourself up.
Right. Maybe we got some sort of like wacky movement pattern that we need to address. And then all of a sudden, like if it is arthritis, it doesn't bug you anymore. So like that could be a big factor. So now if we start layering like nutrition, movement changes, make sure that we're looking at what we think we're looking at, right? Is it arthritis or is it tendonitis or is it a muscle? Like we know what we're looking at. And then we throw in some TB500 just to fast track a little bit of recovery. Like, all right, cool. Like that's kind of like the check boxes for me on that. So, because like
that answered you, Anthony.
well, especially at like mid 40s, 50s, like that kind of stuff. Like I hate to break it to you, but unless you've literally sat in a chair like Wally for your whole fucking life, you're gonna have arthritis in like a lot of your joints, and a lot of
you
us
got young kids.
So yeah, I mean, unless you've sat in a chair and you've preserved your joints, like most of us watching, like most of the guys watching and most of the guys I talk to, we have not, right?
No.
We played sports, we beat the shit out of ourselves in the military, law enforcement, whatever. And hey man, it takes a toll. Like it takes a toll. So you probably got arthritis in all your joints, and it could be causing problems or it might not be. So like you have to make sure that like the arthritis is the issue and it's not just kind of there, so
Right.
like it I don't know, does that make it's kind of like a roundabout way to answer the question.
No, I think it actually answers the question, but like you said with the imaging, a lot of people will be like, oh, it's just arthritis. How do you know? Oh, my mom told me, my grandma told me, my grandma's got arthritis in her hands. That's not genetic. I mean, it could be to an extent, but and when they say this is genetic, that's genetic, and it's your grandparents and your parents telling you that, it's like, I don't know about that.
Maybe
my nose breaking wasn't genetic. It just broke because I got punched in the face. So definitely, if you think you have arthritis or you're having arthritis issues, go get it looked at, because there are so many things that they can do nowadays to help relieve that, because arthritis pain sucks. I've got it in my back just from having 5 back surgeries and just destroying my back. If you can get something that will make you feel better, and like you said earlier, inflammation, get the inflammation out of your body, because once that inflammation kind of starts to leave, you start to feel much better. You're still going to ache. You're just not going to hurt anymore, which that's the important part to me.
Yeah, well, and that's the mechanism of corticosteroids. Like you take a Z-Pack and it wipes the inflammation completely out of your body.
Yeah.
Now on the back end of that, the reason they taper off is because if you just go cold turkey, you have a tremendous rebound effect, and it's going to come rushing right back. So like, yeah, it like reducing the inflammation and looking at your body as like an environment, right? It's pro-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory, right? So like, what is keeping your body as a pro-inflammatory system?
Right.
Like, you might never get rid of the arthritis, but you can reduce the systemic inflammation, which is going to make it feel a lot better.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, once from what I've been told, once the arthritis is there, it's there.
Yeah, unless you get it cut out, you have surgery.
Right.
Or something.
But I heard that shit hurts bad. And I've had enough surgeries on my back. I don't need another one. But if you can get that inflammation to go away or at least relax a little bit, you don't have I always had this pain kind of right in the middle of where my scapulas come down. And not anymore. TB500, BPC 157, Samorlin. I'm even taking glutathione, which helps get heavy metals and obviously tattoos everywhere. Heavy metals in the ink, and maybe it's placebo, but I don't know. After about 4 months, I feel tons better. I have more energy, and I don't know. My body just feels better. I don't have as much, I can stand at the sink and do dishes without leaning over and taking a break for a second and getting back to it. So it definitely helps. There's something to what I'm taking. So
yeah, I think so. I just talked to a coach, another fitness coach that I know, I think about a month or two ago. And he was telling me that, he's working with more people that are taking low dose BPC 157 TB500 all year round,
right.
Not using it just as an on-site injection for a specific elbow issue or whatever. He's just using it systemically all year round at low doses.
Right. And I do that with, so Samorlin is a peptide that works in your hypothalamus, sends a message to your pituitary gland, says, hey, we need more growth hormone. You take it right before you go to bed. And because that's when most of your growth hormone's made. I have noticed, one, babies don't sleep as good as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had trouble sleeping pretty much my whole life. Once I'm asleep, I'm usually pretty good until I got older. But now I lay down. Once I go to sleep, I'm done. I don't even get up to go to the bathroom, nothing. I wake up feeling better, I have more energy. But the main thing that I noticed when I started taking that is my joints stopped hurting so bad. It didn't take all the pain away, but it took a good majority of it. And I low dose it. I don't come off of it 20, 30 units a week for 5 days. And I take, 2 days off. So Monday through Friday, take Saturday, Sunday off, and it's a low dose. So it's not overworking anything. And, your pituitary gland is pretty tough. So it's not like your gonads. You fuck them up, you're in trouble, man.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, again, you look at the dosage, the low dosage, and it's you're not going super the issue is when you go super physiologic with any of this stuff. If you go huge doses and you're like, if a little bit's good, then a lot's better. And it's very rarely is that the case.
Never.
Very, very rarely. Now, I will say that the pre-surgery protocols that I went through, the stuff I got from Chris, the stuff I got from Chris
that Duffin, because that was amazing.
Yeah. So this was one of the coolest things I ever kind of experimented with. And it was Chris, a guy named Chris Duffin. He used to be with Kabuki Strength. But he is a genius with this stuff. And
And I follow him. He's awesome.
So I had a consult with him, and I was prepping for an elbow surgery, and he was like, dude, you need to, I can't remember the dosages offhand, but you basically said mega dose TB500 and BPC 157 for 2 weeks prior to your surgery, and you won't need pain medication. And I was like, are you serious? Because I've had same thing, like 15, 18 surgeries, both my hips replaced, that kind of stuff. And yeah. So like, I was like, yeah, right. But I was like, fuck it. It's worth trying. You know what I mean? I hate taking pain pills. I can't stand it. It hurts my head. Like, it sucks. So I did that. And I swear, man, it was like, boom, like no issues, none.
Yeah, you were saying they made you take a pain pill before you left.
Yeah. So like that's
you didn't take anything.
That a lot of times with ortho surgeries, they'll like force you to take a pain pill before you leave.
Just they will.
They can kind of check it off the box, like, hey, we started him on his pain medication protocols, so you don't call him, and it basically covers their ass, right?
Yeah.
So I took one of those. I was like, I don't think I need it. Same thing I had. So the last couple of years, I've had several surgeries, but I had an elbow surgery where I had a big chunk of crap taken out, and then I had 2 discs replaced in my neck, and I did this protocol before both, and like, man, it was magical. I will say, like, I felt normal. I felt good. Like I just felt like myself coming out of surgery, or more like it anyway. You still have that groggy, you know how it is. Like you feel like shit for a little bit, but man, I came back way better, way faster. And I didn't have that, like, that fog of being on pain medication. It was really nice.
Well, that's bad. Is like you get out of surgery, you're coming out of the propofol fog, and then they give you a pain pill, you get home, you're still foggy. You sleep, you wake up, you're in pain, so you take another one. So you're just constantly staying foggy. And I'm not telling people not to, take pain medication if they need it or whatever, but it's a slippery slope for most, not for all, but for most. 1 minute you're taking it for, shoulder surgery, back surgery. Next minute you're, selling your house to go get some pain pills.
Yeah,
but it's just it's a scary thing. I've seen it happen a lot, especially in the military, with guys getting busted up, coming back with TBIs and stuff, and then start eating pain pills, and it just gets bad. So if you can do something like that might cost you a couple $100 2 weeks before you go have surgery, I think that's a better trade-off than just eating pain pills.
I mean, I can tell you, for me, it was, that's all I can speak on is how it worked for me. I can't, it's like I said, it's gray market stuff, but it's like, it's up to you if you want to take the risk on it based on what you know. And for me, it was like, well, I know what the risk is for pain pills. I really hate them, and it made me feel like shit. I've taken BPC 157 and TB 500 previously, and I know that at worst, for me, it just doesn't do anything. Right. So like, okay, fair trade. Let's try this, like
I'll give it a shot.
Worst case scenario, it doesn't do shit, and I'm behind on my pain meds, and I end up taking one, and then it hurts for a little bit. Like, I've been in pain before. I can handle it. So yeah.
So Anthony says, answered and helped, got it imaged. It is arthritis, but just have to be smarter lifting going forward. Well, then you need to get a hold of this gentleman, and he can help you. Maybe it's your body mechanics. Maybe it's you're moving your arm a certain way or whatever.
It could be. So with that, like, as far as movement goes, all right. So like my hips have both been replaced. I had massive arthritis in those. That was a genetic marker. That was like my hips were like half the depth, right? So like your hip's supposed to have a certain amount of thickness. I had about half of it. Wow. And I just burned out my hips sooner, right? So with that,
what are you, the Flash? Jesus.
Yeah, right.
You're too young to have both hips replaced.
Actually, like, it's more like, once I started posting about that, though, it's more common than you would think that, like, dudes in their 30s and 40s are burning up their hips. And I'm just super grateful that, like, as much as I hate orthopedic procedures, like, without that, I'd be in a wheelchair. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so, I still get to live my life. I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, so as I'm trying to rehab the arthritic changes in my hips, it was like, all right, so what's step one? Step one is, like, keep the joint mobile and strengthen your glutes as much as you can. Like you want to have the strongest ass possible in order to like help that joint move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the stronger you can make the musculature around it. So like elbows, I would say like making sure that like a lot of the issues with elbows can actually translate from having shitty shoulders, right? So
Yeah.
if your scapular doesn't move right or your T-spine is stuck, like let's unglue this. Let's make sure that that scapula moves well. You can protract, retract, and do all those things, and see if we can clean up some stuff up the chain or down the chain, depending on how you look at it. But like elbow here, let's clean up here, let's clean up here, and then see if that makes a difference with your elbow. It could, you know.
That's interesting because I've had both my elbows operated on. Mine were because the ulnar nerve, the muscle around it was so tight that when they went to cut into it, it almost wouldn't cut because it was so tight. And then when it finally started cutting, it like started springing out like a rubber band.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them were like that. And my right one was worse than my left one. And my body is all weird. I've always had issues. Like when I had my shoulder surgery, I had to go in and had it redone because the AC joint and the collarbone were slamming together, and I bruised both of them just by going like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't lifting. I just pushed my arm up. So every time I moved my shoulder, it would slam together, bruise both of them. And I had this massive knot. And that's what actually got me to want to take TB 500 and BPC 157, because everything I read, I was like, okay, I don't care if it repairs. I don't care if they say it repairs this. I just need it to hopefully help pull that inflammation out and maybe repair whatever is kind of going on with that damaged part that happened above, the AC joint. And it went down in about 2 weeks. It went down probably about the half the size, and it stuck up probably a good quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
And that's a lot on your shoulder. So,
right.
So
yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. A lot of times when I hear AC joint, stuff like that, it's like, if we can strengthen the lat, right, and make the lat work better, or activate differently, or activate at all. A lot of times the lat is a lot like the glute. Like we talk about low back pain, like the first thing to check is like, all right, how are your glutes? Like what's the soft tissue like, or the tissue quality?
I ain't got no ass, man.
So
this is my butt.
So if that's the case, and like I've been doing this long enough now where like you can look at an athlete and be like, oh, I bet you have low back pain, and I bet your knees crash in when you squat, and you can just look at them and see how they're built and be like, all right, so check. So now we work, sumo stance stuff, build up your posterior chain, really focus on glutes, and see if we can clean some of this up with building up the musculature and the strength around the joint, rework some movement, and see what happens, right? And then again, like that's like checkbox one before we start rushing to orthopedic surgeries,
Right.
Because once you start cutting on stuff, like it's really good if you need it, but it's never gonna be the same.
No.
Like my hips are better now, but it's not the same, like it's just not. Like I'm deadlifting today and I can still feel this, I've had these for almost 10 years. And it's like, it doesn't feel the same. Like I'll never deadlift 500 pounds again. Like that's for sure.
So what part do they replace
with the hip?
Yeah.
So I had two, just like your classic anterior hip replacement. So the process is actually really cool. It's like brutal, but it's really cool. I remember I had to watch it before, it was making me so nervous. I was like, I got to see what's going to happen.
Oh yeah. I did the same thing. That was a bad idea for a back surgery.
It's like a horror movie. Like I have to watch it.
Yeah.
And
they're
I'm like,
drilling.
Yeah,
it's like, I have that in my garage, dude.
Oh my God. It's like human carpentry. It's literally what it is. So like with the hip, they lay it down on a table. The first thing they do is they'll try to like dislocate your hip and see if they can do it just on their own. And you're knocked out for it. So it's like,
still doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, so they cut you down the side of the hip, the front of the hip, the anterior side, and then they expose the femur, right? They'll dislocate the hip, they expose the femur, and then they cut it off, right? And then they drill a pilot hole and they pound. They use a slide hammer, and they pound this big titanium wedge, and then they slap like a ceramic ball on the top. And then on the socket side, what they'll do is they take this big like Dremel, and they'll Dremel out the inside, and they screw I think a steel plate followed by this like space age plastic. And then once they do that, they drill all that in place. Then they slap the ball into the socket, stitch it back up, wake you up, and tell you to go walk around.
And then start calling you Steve Austin.
and dude, the whole process takes like less than an hour. You're like,
what?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's wild, man. But yeah. And then I remember getting up and like, all right, go ahead and start walking around. I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, you just cut out like my biggest joint in my body, and you're gonna tell me go walk around.
So what was that feeling when you first stood up? Because I often wonder, like when people get a leg amputated or something like that, because if you look at it from our perspective, that we don't have that, you would think that would hurt, like putting that force on that skin. And what did that feel like when you got it done? When you got out of bed?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Really? But you did it anyway because you had to. But
yeah. So it felt when you're in the hospital, like everything's kind of foggy. They just want to make sure you can do it and you can get up and walk around so they can justify you leaving, right? So so the big thing for me was when I got home, like early on in recovery. I remember being able to step. I stepped up on like a 2-inch step, and my whole knee and my whole hip like caved in. It caved in hard, and I almost fell down. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. I've never felt my hip move like that. And I think a lot of it was like, it's not your natural tissue. And I'm kind of like just speaking on my own experience. I don't know this is like fact or anything.
Right.
But like, to me, I was like, I don't think that my brain is registering what this is yet. You know what I mean? Because like, it's not my natural tissue. I can't feel it the same way. My brain doesn't register the connection the same way. And it's going to take time to relearn how to do this because it's a prosthetic,
Yeah. Essentially.
I mean, by definition, it's a prosthetic.
Okay.
It's just internal, So yeah, that was real weird. And it took me a lot of time to figure out like how to move again with that, and how to squat again with that, and how to lift weights again with that, how to run with that, and like what my limitations are with it. And still, like when I do jujitsu, I still have to find where my limitations are with it, based on my comfort. I think like mechanically it's probably fine for whatever, but yeah, I always kind of get freaked out. Like, man, if I dislocate this thing or either one of them, like that's gonna be real bad. So I should not do that.
So when I had my first back surgery, my doctor told me, but I was hired monkey nuts, so I didn't really remember it until he said it again in the follow-up appointment. But he told my wife, the biggest thing that he's gonna have to overcome from here until he overcomes it, is fear management.
Yeah.
Because you've had such a large surgery. Oh, I don't want to walk down those stairs because I don't really want to fall. And you start justifying shit in your head, just because of the fear of falling or getting hurt or whatever. And it's not the fact that you'll get hurt. For me, it was put me back where I just was, and that was not fun. So a lot of guys, I think they struggle with that too, because you go from being a football player, motorcycle rider, whatever, and you have these major surgeries, this, that, and everything. And it just depends on your brain and your physiology, and your ability to move past that type of an injury will determine how long it's going to take you to get over that. But fear management is huge, and I'm sure you still experience a little bit, because I do, not as much anymore. I had my first back surgery in 2006 or 7. So it's been a little bit, a few years ago, but every once in a while I look at something, I'm like, okay, fuck it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it took a while to get back to let's do it anyway.
Yeah.
If I get hurt, I get hurt.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to like really figure out like what is, because there is some of that comes with age, right? That's just whether you're going to call it like wisdom or just getting older and being afraid, like either way, it's kind of a self-preservation thing. So
I think it's more risk reward now than it was.
Yeah. Right. That's why I look at it too. Like, but there's things that I actively avoid, like the CrossFit style workouts, like the use of intensity. Like it used to be before where it was like, fuck, I'll do whatever, man. Like I will burn it down to the ground. I need to win this workout. Like, and I don't care if I lose an arm in the process.
Yeah.
And now it's like, there's no fucking way I'm going to do that. Like that's ridiculous. I'm not going to jump on the box like that. I don't want to blow my Achilles out, you know?
I am not going to jump off that 200-foot bridge anymore. That's stupid.
Right. Right.
So we're coming to the end here, man. Where can people find you? Where, if they want to take Beyond the Barrel's opinion and say, hey, his workouts are the absolute best. How do these guys find you to ask you questions, to see if you're a fit for them and if they're a fit for you?
Yeah. So the best way is just my Instagram. If you go to Anthony _Heroic Industries, and just find me on Instagram, and you can reach out via DM and like we'll chat about whatever. I do a lot of one-on-one consults where we'll go through 30, 40 minutes, discuss your background, your history, what you're doing now, where you want to go to, and if I can help you, cool. And if I can't help you, I can point you in a good direction that somebody else can.
With that being said, are you going to be releasing any kind of a platform, apps, teaming up with anybody that can push you out, anything like that?
Yeah, I have coming out in the next, hopefully like 2-3 weeks. I don't have a hard time on it, but I do have a fitness app. So a training app that'll be coming out, and that'll be in the next, hopefully, definitely within the month, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Perfect. And do we have a website or a way to find that app so they can keep an eye out for it?
I don't have the information yet, so I know that I'm working with the developer on it, and I should have that in the next 2 weeks for sure.
So go follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be all over his Instagram as far as when it's going to be ready.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm excited to see it because I'm looking to, 47. I'm looking to do more functional stuff. I've got 2 kids under the age of 7 that are boys and they're insane. So I've got to keep up with them for another few years before I'm, irrelevant in their world again. But yeah, I'm excited to see that and see what you bring to the table and what you can bring for the guys. And, because we have a lot of guys here that with us that they've gotten to that point where they just can't figure out how to get past that plateau that they got to because they've been doing the same stuff for the last 20 years, last 30 years. I think we all kind of train the same way. If that's just what worked for us when we were in our 20s and 30s, when we're in the military, when we're cops or whatever. And then we go back to it years later and we're like, oh, why isn't it working? Well,
yeah, there's a lot of reasons. And I run into that a
lot.
ton. I run into that a ton with these consults that I do where it's like, yeah, that works for you when you're 20, but you're not 20 anymore. You have to adapt to the athlete that you are today. And we can look at that as to what worked before, but it's going to be applied in probably a different context. So sometimes you just need a few little tweaks and all of a sudden, like, boom, it creates a stimulus and you're off and running.
Right. Cool. Anything else you got or you good?
No, man, that's pretty much it.
Cool, man. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you guys for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you guys next weekend or next week.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.